Jade, Oakley, welcome to Landscape Architecture UNSW fourth year graduation studio, week 6 or 7. Jade is, for everyone watching, Jade is one of Sydney's finest public artists and producing works certainly throughout the east coast of Australia as far as I know, and Jade can tell us more. I thought it might be nice to talk to you, Jade, at the moment because we are hitting a time in the studio of people creating and regenerating their main drawings for their final project studio. Making models is part of that, but also ideas around kind of the pitch or how to sort of get a good idea across. And so we're not only interested in looking at your very beautiful work, but interested in having a bit of a discussion with you about how that operates in your life. Jade, can I pass over to you? Can you tell us a little bit about you that's more accurate than what I said?
Oh, you're pretty close, Patrick. So yeah, I'm a public sculptor. So a big part of my practice is winning commissions. So that's a very long and drawn out process, but model making is very much a part of it. So I make big permanent artworks, whether it's facades or suspended mobiles or cast concrete sculptures in the landscape. And steel sculptures in the landscape, come to think of it. So I've chosen 3 artworks to talk to you today about because they illustrate how much work goes into presenting an artwork. At the concept phase of a public sculpture, there's very little money. So it really just covers the collaborators and they're all doing things at mates' rates or, cheaply. And I've sort of found ways of working where I can use my own skills working with my hands and combine that with friends who are really good at Photoshop or people who can do computer modeling. So the reason I make models is because I need to communicate the idea of the artwork to usually a panel of people. So it's a bit different in COVID, but normally you come in, there's been an artist or two before, and then there's a big conference table. And some advice from a public sculptor I used to work with, Jenny Turpin, was make a model and plonk it down in the middle of the table. The other thing she said, which I follow when I can, is print out your presentation, all the documents, but don't give it to them till the end because they can't stop themselves and they flick through and they don't listen to you. So at the end you say, oh, I've got printed copies for you. But she suggested not to hand them out at the start if you can get away with it. But the focus of the model is really to make people fall in love with the artwork and to communicate the idea. And also from a public art perspective, to show the work of the hand, because often the artworks themselves are very technical, but it's very important for the panel to understand that I'm working as an artist and that this is an artwork. It's not just, an architectural project. So that's where the models come.
Apologies to any architect listening, and there's a few.
There might be a few, but they need to know. They need to see the difference.
We get it.
They need to see the handmade element. So maybe what I'll do is I'll share my screen and I'll show you these 3 artworks, model, and then what they got made into. That one that did.
Great.
Okay, here we go.
Yeah, good. Jade, just while you're changing screens there, just before when we were chatting, and I asked you how many tenders do you think you win? You said, oh no, about 1 in 5, and that's a pretty good rate. And I think this idea of how you win these tenders is worth discussing.
It is. You should enable screen sharing. You've disabled it again.
Oh, you're kidding. Oh, I know, Jade, because we had to sorry everybody, that's a bit boring for everyone. We had to restart our call. Okay, I've just enabled it. I always tell the students to listen to us at 1.5 or 2. Brilliant.
Here we go. So the first artwork I'm going to discuss is called Interplay. this is the model. So it's laser cut tiny little pieces that I then thermoformed. So I heated it up, probably in the oven, and then curved them so that they had a compound curve in them. And then I painted them very carefully with a paint that has actual copper in it, and then aged the copper. And then the trees are laser cut cardboard. So this is one of those ones where the model is designed to take the client and the panel on a journey and get them to fall in love with this artwork and to sort of enchant them. So the idea is that I'm showing the feel of the artwork, the concept, and also how it can transform at night. And then later on in the document, I'm talking about the materiality and how we would actually make the real thing. So this is a detail of the actual artwork. So it was laser cut out of 8mm mild steel. And the steel was then beaten by a blacksmith or two blacksmiths to get these beautiful shapes. You can roll it, which we did, but then instead of just having a plain boring curve, we beat it so there's more detail in it when you see it in real life. Then it was galvanized, then coated in metal, and then aged and then sealed. So this is it during the day. So before it's sealed, the patina's gone on it and then wiped back by hand to sort of create this effect.
It's a beautiful day.
Yeah, so this is one where the final work and the model are quite closely linked. Often during design development, things change. This one, they did get smaller and every single hole had to be addressed for entrapment issues. So every hole is a size that people can't get their fingers stuck in, for instance. So that was a lot of work that went through afterwards. This one's a mobile. So I do quite a lot of mobiles, often for hospitals, because they're very sort of peaceful, very big in the end. This one was 6 meters high, long, but this is the model showing, again, a combination of the work that a laser can do and by hand. So these are laser etched with my drawings, and then I've filled in with gold paint and a lot of patience. And I made the model. So what the model's showing is the balance of the work, and also the shape and the flow of it. You could computer model this, but it would really be a whole lot of pain for not much gain, because really the calculations for the cross pieces and everything can be done on Excel. So there's no point really modeling it digitally. So that's as far as we actually work off these models. So it's not only something that will hopefully get the panel over the line and get them to fall in love with the artwork, but it's the prototype. This is at 1 to 10. So when we make the final work, we just times everything by 10. So these are the same drawings, which have been, they're applied metal onto thermoformed acrylic, which has also been painted. So all those tiny little delicate loops in the mobile have been translated into more complicated fittings that are milled from solid stainless steel. You can see the balance fittings there. This is in the Coroner's Court in Sydney. And the last one is called Whispering Landscape. This is very sad. This is one that didn't go through. So this just shows you a little bit of the amount of work that goes into these projects, even if they get rejected. So there was 5 artists shortlisted, and I've got to the end, 1 of 2, and missed out. Anyway, here we go, Whispering Landscape. So this one, we had very little time and also, as usual, very little money. So I've made this model through laser cutting and also through working with clay. And I waited. It's very important when you're taking photographs of models to get the light right. You probably know that already, but there is a moment in my house where the sun comes in for about 2 minutes at this particular spot where the wall's blank. So these photographs were taken in a very small window of time. The light makes a massive difference with plywood. So these are aeroplane fly models. So what I'll show you now is the photograph I took with my iPhone, and then the photograph fixed up by my friend who does Photoshop. So I said to her to add some magic, some warmth, like the setting sun, some lens flares, and just put a bit of love into them. So you'll be able to see what she started with. Again, my photograph. It's okay. It's a little bit cold and miserable. And then what she turns it into, which is something that's much more evocative. She goes again. So my photograph, reasonably ordinary. And then just that little bit of love going over the top of it, which makes it so much more beautiful. So we're trying to enchant the panel. We're trying to make them fall in love with the artwork and take them on a journey. This is a bit low res, but what I'm showing you here is this is a computer generated model of the park. So we call this the magpie eye view because they're the birds that fly along in the treetops up in the top of the eucalyptus trees. So these grey pieces are the artwork flowing through the park. And then it's gone through Photoshop now. What I wanted the Photoshop artist to do was to make it warmer and to also put some text on. So when we get closer, we'll be able to see. That's the rain garden, which, by the way, you guys haven't worked with many councils yet, I don't think. This is interesting. The council is very risk averse, which we didn't know, or we never would have proposed this. This rain garden's actually become a gravel-filled swale because the council was nervous about the different shaped and sized rocks. In addition, the landscape architects wanted a 30-centimetre high bridge across the swale, and the council said no, it's too dangerous. So although this artwork complies with Australian playground safety standards, it was rejected on safety concerns. And maintenance, which is another interesting thing. So this is 50 MPa concrete. This is the same concrete that they made the Sydney Harbour Tunnel out of. It's very strong. So the maintenance concerns must have been, what if a plant grows up over it, I assume. So the idea of this artwork was that we would gather stories from the community and etch them into the sculpture so that as you travelled along the sculpture, you could read stories from people who travelled and lived here. So this is also fixed up by the Photoshop artist. So that's as far as you'll get with the modelling, which is kind of cold and not very exciting. And then Photoshop can just make it that much more beautiful. And here we go again, a view from the model, and then improved by Photoshop. So she's actually used colours from my cast concrete. When I cast concrete, I mix the colours in by hand. So they're, it's sort of, it's an unusual technique, and it's something that really lifts the artwork and makes it from something that's sort of cold concrete to something that's more like a living form. So this is what she can do for that. And then, of course, there's all the technical stuff, but that, for what I'm doing, that needs to be in the background. So everything's been modelled in 3D, but really the thing that's going to sell the artwork is telling the story and bringing people along the journey. So that's that. I'll stop sharing. I don't know whether you want to see. I've got bits and pieces.
Come on, give us a look at a couple of bits and pieces. Oh yeah, nice.
So this is one of the leaves from the coroner's court. So that's metal applied to the surface of the plastic. So the reason I'm using plastic is I want it to be really lightweight.
Yeah.
And then this is the model. Oh, it doesn't want to come down. So this is what we worked off to make the final piece.
It's so beautiful. Jade, all the students, everyone is finding, of course, in this era of lockdown, all final presentations will be online, and often people are making models and then a bit more Jenny Turpin-esque and Jade-esque, throwing them on the table, and that's probably not an option this year in early December, and people producing everything online. So Yeah, have you had any experience with the kind of non-real tender submission where you're only submitting on screen?
It's
You may
hard.
or may not have. Yeah.
It's difficult because you don't get the feedback. You don't feel the feedback. Well, you might feel that it went well, and then you get a list of questions. You realize they've missed the point. So it's much harder to connect with people on an online Zoom. The other thing is the photographs of the model then become really important. So I always do photograph the model, but I've only just started to get them photoshopped as well as photographed, because that sort of adds a little bit more. Normally, I would get them professionally photographed, but because of COVID, and the girl that I work with is in one of the really, really heavily locked down zones, we didn't have time to shuffle anything back and forth. So she had to work with my photographs and do something nice with them. Normally she'd professionally photograph them. But I'd say the model photographs are really important because you can't see it. Like, hang on a minute. Here's a model. If I'm presenting with this in front of me, all you can see is the trees. So really, like, it's very hard to get people to engage.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, maybe there is an art to be had from presenting a model on screen.
Really, I think what would have been nice if I'd had time was to get the phone and make a video moving through the model, almost like you're a little mini drone, but I couldn't get that happening in time.
Yeah, but still, that food for thought. Certainly, from talking with you, it's good. It's sort of nice to hear and informative to hear. There's often many layers to your process. There's laser in hand, or laser cut in clay, or I feel like you're often working with several steps of a process.
Yeah, and often at the same time. So if we have more time, we can do it one at a time. So for instance, when I've just got in Melbourne, I made the model out of clay and took photographs of it. And now that we've got the work, I'm working with a 3D modeling person to make the 3D CAD model of it. But sometimes it's just everything all at once. So the idea is still developing while the hands are moving, while the model's being made on CAD, and this feedback happens for a very frenetic couple of weeks.
Yeah, Jade, we'll call it a day in a minute in this conversation, but this idea of the pitch, and you're winning 1 in 5. Could you talk us through sort of a successful pitch, how you think that's gone, or what worked, or I had a really great model, or
they're all different. Sometimes you just have no idea that you've won it. Often the ones you win are quite quick, in and out. But it was funny, one of them I put the model on the table, and it was this big mobile, this one bit here and one bit there, and they were just jumping out of their skin because I hadn't given them the presentation and they hadn't looked through the digital document, and they were like, but how does it fit in the building? Where does it go? Where does it go? And we built up this frustration. And then finally they got the feel for where it went. So that was always nice too. But one of the things that helps is not just having a really beautiful model. And I think that you can't underestimate how important that is. Whether you're, threading something by hand, or if you thought really hard about the materials, do you want it to be plastic? Do you want a combination of plastic and wood? It's so important to make that really beautiful, but also to have samples to pass around. Not just because it shows materiality in a tactile way and that you've thought through the project, but also it unites the team. When you're doing it face to face, they can pass it around and they talk to each other, and that you get this sort of camaraderie, because often on the panel, they don't all know each other all that well. They might know each other through work, but they're not all mates, they're not all from the one organization. So to have these pieces that pass around is actually a really good trick well, it's not a trick, but it's a way of breaking the ice.
Strategy, Jade. Strategy is the word.
Yes.
Strategy.
Way to manipulate people.
I like that. That's good. Jade Oakley, thank you. I don't want to keep you longer. I love the word enchant, and you need to enchant the panels. I think that's good. It's a very nice take-home message for everyone, the need to create beautiful things.
I've got one more thing to leave your students with.
Oh, great. Go.
one of my mottos is I don't have time for rejection. So don't, you know, life is full of rejection. Don't worry about it. Next. You just go next, and don't hold on to things, because there's no point. There's always another project.
Yeah, terrific.
Yeah.
Well said. Super well said. Jade, thank you. I'll say goodbye.
Okay, thanks, Patrick. Bye.
Bye.